Hey everybody, it is I, your favorite story reading Doge. In today's episode of Dungeons & Dragons Horror Stories, we have a few tales of people playing tabletop RPGs that get to be so creepy that it will literally send chills down your spine. So, to prepare us for the journey of cringe we are about to embark upon, here are some kitties to help us get our wholesome levels up, to shield from the psychic damage we are all about to be subjected to. There we go. Now that we are properly prepared, let's get right into it. Selective Horniness by Reddit user AccomplishedBug143. So, this is less of a horror story and more of a creep story. About 3 years ago, I DM'd a game with my girlfriend as co-GM over Discord. We recruited players from a random pool of friends and people from servers we were part of, and ultimately got a party of 5. But only one person is worth mentioning. We'll call him Picky. So, to start off, the campaign was more on the adult side, being a mostly chaotic and evil campaign, so all the typical dark themes were present. Picky loved this, and was extremely excited about this campaign, because it's something he'd fantasized being a part of for a long time. His character was a wizard, but just really horny. Any female NPC I created, of any race, he'd want to get into the pants of. Here's where things get a little weird, so I hope I don't lose you. He wanted to roleplay with my NPCs, but with my girlfriend voicing them, since I'm a guy with a deep voice. Sounding feminine isn't really an option for me, but any female character my girlfriend created as a co-GM, he found their personalities boring and uninteresting, so he didn't want to pursue them. Another thing is, he always wanted to lead the female NPCs to places I assumed was a more romantic setting, causing him to often separate from the party to tell any female NPC any form of information, as if stepping outside of a tavern to give the quest-giving NPC the item she paid you to retrieve would make her romantically inclined to like you. The first major red flag was when he started requesting that my girlfriend get in private Discord calls with him to do some RPing between sessions. I told her I didn't want her to, and she agreed that she's pretty sure he'd just try to do something creepy over the call. I offered to do it with us both present in the call, with the excuse that my girlfriend wouldn't know how to play my NPCs well without my aid. He obviously declined. It finally came to an end when, one session, he attempted to seduce a drow pirate the team had been sailing with by any means all session. He basically followed her around, cornered her, and said something along the lines of, quote, "I'm not going to force myself on you. I'm going to make you want me." My girlfriend, who was voicing the female NPC at the time, grew silent, so I knew that shit sent chills up her spine, cause it made me cringe a bit. I replied, and upon hearing my voice, Picky fucked off. I confronted him about it later, and during our conversation, he said something along the lines of, quote, "Well, if your girlfriend has an issue with it, she can tell me." He obviously didn't get that she was creeped out by him, so I kicked him from the group. The other players didn't mind too much. My girlfriend was thankful yet sorry for him, but Picky lamented to me for a while in DMs about how it was unfair before I blocked him, because his rants started to dive into incel territory. TLDR, player wanted to bone female NPCs I made, but wanted my girlfriend to act out and voice all of them. He creeped her out, so I kicked him from the group. Yeah, I would certainly say that is creepy. Not only for the fact that Picky wanted OP's girlfriend to voice the characters that he wanted to bang, but wanted her to do so alone. Maybe he thought that if he had her doing it alone, maybe she would fall in love with him for real or something. Though who knows what goes on inside the heads of people like this. Anyways, let's move on to the next story. I got someone banned by rewriting Doctor Who smutfics. Submitted to the DnD Doge subreddit by Reddit user Hyena Dandy. Okay, so context. I've been playing D&D for about 20 years now, starting in 6th grade, and I worked at a D&D summer camp for kids. All this means that I'm pretty interested in the game's rules, so when 5e was in its beta, I was in a couple campaigns to see how the systems work. This was a while ago, so I may be mistaken in some aspects, but I recall that in all of them, I played an arrogant elven sorcerer who tends to see elven culture as superior to everything else. He's not cruel about it, but does tend to be dismissive of basically anything non-elven. He also has a British accent. Well, as I'm playing in one of these campaigns, we noticed that because of the attitude and the mannerisms, I have unintentionally been portraying him very close to the character of the 6th Doctor from Doctor Who, as he appears in the audio plays by Big Finish. I noticed this, we laugh about it, and it becomes something of a running joke in the campaign that my character is very clearly Colin Baker's version of the Doctor. All of these things are basically implications, where the joke is, yes, he is obviously the Doctor, but everyone around him pretends that that's not what's going on. This fact is mentioned because readers can look up the 6th Doctor to see just how utterly non-sexual of a character he is. So, time for me to do what seems to be the standard and run down our dramatis personae. They'll be getting some Doctor Who codenames too. The Doctor, me, a freelance erotica writer playing an elf sorcerer who is very clearly the 6th Doctor. Mel, half-orc fighter. Her character's full name was Malara, but the fact that she had the same name as one of the Doctor's companions was too good for me to pass up. Rastalon, our DM. Nice dude, pretty open to things, as big of a Doctor Who fan as I am, and also loves the Big Finish audios, basically my accomplice in turning my character into the Doctor. Ace, dwarf cleric, named both for the fact that she is asexual and that I totally believe her character would just run up and beat a Dalek to death with a stick. Absorbeloff, the problem player, so named because she is just the worst, and is the cause of very icky sexual imagery, not unlike the ending of Love and Monsters. Also convinced she's God's gift to smut. So here's the deal. We're all adults, and only Ace has an issue with too much sexuality. We tend to make bawdy jokes. The Skype, or Discord, I don't remember if that even existed then, but if it did, it might have been, has a not safe for work chat, etc. And we all like to write as well, so Mel and I occasionally write some vignettes. If they're short and important, we'll post them in a general RP channel straight up, and if they're long or unimportant, we link a Google Doc instead. These may be flashbacks, maybe things our characters do in downtime, etc. Occasionally, another character may appear in them, but only for very minor supporting roles. Only Ace has any issue with erotica, but as a result, we have something of a rule that if there's going to be any explicit sex in your story, you have to put it on a Google Doc and tag that it's not safe for work, so Ace can skip it. As far as in real life gender goes, there's only one man in the group, in character or out of character. Out of character, it's the GM, and in character, it's me. However, I'm non-binary and have a masculine voice, and am playing a male character. Now, with all the necessary backstory down, time to go into what happened. So, Absorbeloff has decided to ship the Doctor and Mel, because she is, let's be honest, just an extremely thirsty person. Now, if someone wants to ship my character with someone, that's okay. I'm easygoing, and again, freelance erotic fiction writer. I'll even let them write some fanfic, though if someone else is in it, I want them to get permission, and it'll be non-canon. Mel, however, would rather her character stay her character, and that's fine by me. One day, Absorbeloff asks if she can write something with the Doctor in it. I agree, and add that caveat about asking other people and it being non-canon. Well, Absorbeloff heard the first part, but not the second, and the next day, I wake up to find about 1,000 words of untagged not safe for work fanfic about the Doctor and Mel in general RP chat. And it is, I'm going to be honest, terrible. If I wrote this, I'd refuse to post it out of embarrassment, and that would be if these were OCs. They aren't. You're supposed to be basing this on our characters, and while he's a prick, the Doctor isn't the sort to kidnap Mel and tie her up and, let's just remove details for the sake of the Doge's sensitive eyes and say, give her a bone to chew on. Yeah, that doesn't actually make it any better. And as far as the technical craft, this is some of the worst smut I've seen, and in my line of work, you see plenty. So, naturally, this is not cool. Again, Mel wasn't asked, and Ace doesn't want to see that, so we tell Absorbaloff to cut it out. We do this politely, and I even try to be as positive as I can about the writing. I believe I described them as definitely very enthusiastic. 2 days later, Absorbaloff has not cut it out. Another 1,000 words are posted. We have a session, and for some reasons of being captured by a group of golems who are not Cybermen, Doc and Mel never even interact. Okay, this is fine, and Absorbaloff hasn't even posted another story. Maybe she's forgotten. Maybe she's finished. Or maybe it's something else. Because the day of our next session, out comes another untagged 1,000 words of BDSM smut of the Doctor and Mel, set right after the Doctor gets rescued from the golems, which includes Mel sustaining an injury to her hand. Yikes. We politely tell them to knock it off again, but this is just the beginning of our problems. During the session, I get rescued, and there's a time skip. Absorbaloff starts acting weird, giggly, making comments about Doc and Mel, etc. The usual. Anyway, partway through the session, Mel is getting yelled at in the tavern, and draws her 2 swords. Absorbaloff tells her she can't. Why not? Well, because of the hand injury. This turns into quite the disagreement. Rassilon, Mel, did your character hurt her hand? Mel, no. Absorbaloff, yes she did, when playing fetch with the Doctor. Still not better. Ace, Absorbaloff, sex is a thing, get over it. Mel, when did that happen? Doctor, in the thing this morning. It's fine, it's non-canon. Absorbaloff, no it's not. Rassilon, yes it is. Absorbaloff, all your stories are canon though. Ace, their stories don't feature banana splits. Doctor, yeah, I said make it non-canon if you're going to write me. Now, this goes on for a while, and then Absorbaloff makes a comment that we need her, because she's the only one writing anything interesting, and that if it weren't for how much more interesting her stuff is, we'd have nothing to keep things worth playing. Well, if she's doing all the work, why not leave? She's doing us a favor by being able to bring some entertainment to the game. We need her. I posit that perhaps what she wrote is not necessarily, by the standards of D&D, entertainment. Absorbaloff responds that it's better than anything I can do. Well, see, previously, Absorbaloff had insulted my character, insulted my D&D campaign, and insulted my friends, but now they've gone after my professional skill set and announced that they're better than me at what I do for a living. Now it's really personal. So I tell the GM that I'll be back in a bit and clear things with Mel over DMs before getting to work defending my honor as a writer. Another thing you should know about me, when I want to, I am a very fast writer. How fast? I did NaNoWriMo on a long weekend, fast. Or, in more relevant terms, fast enough to write 5,000 words of erotic fanfiction and be back for the next major plot event. So I take the POS stories this person has written and use them as a guide to make a story that, well, doesn't suck. About half an hour later, I'm back in the call. Rassilon returns from a bio break, and I tell them there's something they might want to read in the RP thing. Rassilon does, and a few minutes later, they tell Absorbeloff to leave. Absorbeloff is confused and upset. Why? Well, Rassilon points to my Google Doc. Absorbeloff is even more angry and says that I just copy-pasted her story with autocorrect. I literally rewrote everything. I had to. Half the time, the doctor seemed to have 2 heads and an extra arm. So, because I know what I did, and with a warning to Ace to mute the call for a moment, I go into detail for probably about a 50-minute lecture on every aspect of Absorbeloff's writing that I corrected, and what was wrong with it. When I finish, Rassilon concludes by telling Absorbeloff that their services are clearly not needed anymore, so they can go find something actually fun to do. And thus, with one last accusation of plagiarism, she was off. For a few minutes. And then, she contacted me to see if I'd take a commission from her. Don't know why. Apparently she did all the work. Anyway, she's gone now, and I would probably have been able to tell this story better if I weren't falling asleep at the keyboard. But if I don't feel like I need to rewrite when I wake up, that's the story of how I got someone banned with the power of erotic Doctor Who fanfic. Goodbye for now. Well, that was quite the story. It seems like Absorbeloff's first problem is being hard of hearing, as OP flat out told her she could write the fanfic only if she got permission from the other players, and know that it wasn't canon to the game. Then, she had the nerve to tell OP that she was a better writer, which I know that was the straw that broke the camel's back, but also insulting the characters and friends should have been enough to push them over the edge and say something. At least they don't have to deal with her writings anymore. Let's get on to the next one. I left a new D&D campaign before session 1. Submitted to the D&D Doge subreddit by Reddit user Fortizimo369. I'm a fan of Lucky the Like and Comment Kitty. Lucky, you're a star. I mean D&D Doge on YouTube. And I thought that I might share this story, even though it isn't as long as the other stories I have heard on the channel. This is my first time posting, so please be kind. If you include this in a video, I will probably see it. And I see you. This just happened the other day. I found a group to play with online in a forum dedicated to helping D&D groups find each other, and I contacted the DM through Discord asking for more information about their world. The concept was that they wanted to run a game where class would be determined through roleplay in the first session, where you build your backstory with the DM. Other players were expected to watch or participate as NPCs during each character's moment, which is different than how I normally play, but I was curious. As you might have guessed from the title, I didn't even make it that far. Right off the bat, the DM was very open with me about personal topics within private messaging. I'm not sure if this is partially because I was the only woman in the group or not, but he seemed to trust me immediately. Topics included disclosure about mental health conditions, and a detailed description of having to take a laxative at the very moment we were having our first conversation. Well, that just sounds shitty. I became an unwilling guest in his bathroom. This was weird, but I consider myself to be a fairly accepting person, so I let it go. We met for session 0 through Discord, where the group had an opportunity to ask questions about the world and get to know each other. This ended in a virtual game of Cards Against Humanity. It then became clear to me that the DM and I did not share the same sense of humor. But that didn't mean that we couldn't get to know each other and play some D&D. It rubbed me the wrong way that I had sent the DM information about what I was and wasn't comfortable with in D&D, only for similar content to appear in the game, particularly my discomfort with non-consensual romantic and sexual advances. A couple days later, I received a message from the DM on the platform where we met, telling me that his Discord account had been banned for some reason. After asking a couple of questions, He said that he thought it was because he was making sexual jokes with minors in another server. He said that he knew they were minors, but he asked them if they were okay with it, and they all said yes. Now, to some people, sexual jokes may not be a big deal, but because he instigated this with minors, who cannot consent as their brains and decision-making processes are still developing, this felt very creepy to me, and clearly someone wasn't okay with it because he was reported. He portrayed himself as a victim who did nothing wrong, claiming that someone lied or wanted to get him in trouble, or took the situation out of context. I'm sorry that this story doesn't have the most exciting ending, but I ended up reporting the message where he admits to making sexual jokes and having sexually charged discussions with minors today. Before I left the group, another player said that his account had been banned, so he was trying to make a new Discord server. He is now blocked on both Discord and the platform where we met, so hopefully I don't hear from him again. I would imagine that he is probably pretty mad. If he doesn't understand what he did was breaking the rules of consent, and adamant that he did nothing wrong in real life, I wasn't sure he would respect my boundaries, which I established in my first message to him, and follow the rules of consent in game, and that meant we weren't a good fit. Perhaps reporting him was too far, but I was very uncomfortable. I was scared of a confrontation, so I ran off into the night right afterwards. I can't say that I handled it perfectly, but I did what was most comfortable for myself. Well, kudos to OP for seeing the red flags there before going forward with the game. That DM definitely gave off some creepy vibes from what I've read, and I don't think OP did anything wrong in reporting him. What he was doing sounded like grade A grooming behavior with those minors, though what do you think? Hopefully, OP can find a decent game to play in soon. And there we have it. Some of the examples of what happens when creeps meet the world of Dungeons & Dragons. Have you ever had an experience when playing tabletop RPGs that gave you chills in a bad way? If so, and would like it shared on the channel, be sure to post it in the comments, on the subreddit, or even just DM me on Twitter. As always, I appreciate all of you, and may all of your rolls be natural 20s. Until next time.